Awesome. I love it. All right, if you're tuning in, thank you so much. The Nikki Clarke Show is about transforming lives one story at a time, and we invite people from all walks of life to come on and share their heart stories. And I am so excited to introduce this incredible woman who's got a story, a beautiful journey that I'd love for her to share. She is the founder and CEO of Wings to Wounds, and Wounds to Wings. My apologies. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about what she does. So please welcome Nicole Brown Faulkner to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm Nicole Brown Faulkner, and I am a registered psychotherapist as part of my career practice. And as of August, this past August, I launched a newly federal incorporated organization. It's called the Trauma and Embodiment Association. So I get to be the CEO and founder of that. I have, 2018, I kind of began outreaching my work with psychotherapy. So I actually bring psychotherapy to the people. And I know someone said to me one time, they said, a psychotherapist and an entrepreneur, that's a heavy mix. But I bring healing work out to the masses. So again, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And we met at a networking event not too long ago, and you shared a little bit about your story, which really moved me. So I'm so glad that you said yes. But tell us about your background leading up to becoming a therapist.
Okay. Well, when I introduced myself, I also introduced myself as a trauma survivor as well. Most of how I do my work is through my lived experience, and it's awakened me. It makes me realize the journey that I was on up until the point of becoming a psychotherapist. And so I'll say that I've had my childhood, which once we talk about psychotherapy, you'll understand a little bit more that we kind of are patterns of behavior around how we protect ourselves. And I cookie cut myself out of my childhood, which was a childhood of trauma, into patterns of relationships. And it kind of followed me until I was able to begin to work with those patterns of behavior. And but what it gave me was a gift, and it gave me a gift with eyes that feel and a heart that sees. So I used my hypervigilance through my story to do this work now. So it has gifted me. So I have many thanks for it as well.
Amazing. And what can you tell us about trauma?
Yeah, okay. That's really wonderful, and I'm glad you asked that. I was at an event yesterday. It was bringing and centering conversations around racialized bodies and mental health. And so one of the things I do is I debunk trauma right away because trauma got thrown into pop culture, and it's just a word like everyone's using and all that. But really what trauma is, it is how helplessness got trapped in our nervous system. So it means that our body can be really reactive a lot when we are in places where we have a power dynamic over us and we feel like we can't escape from it. Right. And so it can come in many things, right? It can come in what we traditionally know through trauma, right? Abuse, but it also can come in from not having resources and support that you should have had and you didn't, that left your body in a state of trauma, helplessness.
Mm-hmm. So being stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then carrying that, whatever you've internalized for years into relationships, into dynamics at work and what have you, and not getting to unpack. So when people approach you now as potential clients, how do you lead them into the process of being healed?
Okay, well, people usually come who are ready to be healed. I never get anyone who doesn't want to be healed, like, hey, can you pick me? And that's the thing, right? So when we're ready, we come for help, right? And how I do it is a couple ways. I have there's self-referrals. Usually people find me through social media because I have created a platform that talks about more non-traditional things. Really what I'm doing is I'm debunking and destigmatizing anything around mental health. And so I always say on there, this is not psychotherapy and all that, but because it resonates with lots of people, they get to come out from under the shame and the secrecy and the isolation of their thoughts and what they're feeling. So they tend to reach out that way. So I have a clinical practice. I do it the traditional way, but I also do most things non-traditionally. So I will pop up in communities and do events and offer like we did last night, group therapy, through many means, many different modalities and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I do with the psychotherapy and healing.
That's amazing. And I just wanted to ask, do people know that they need therapy? Or what are some of the signs that people may recognize in someone else that, oh, she needs to, talk?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have that friend, right? Like, you need therapy.
You need some help, yeah.
Yes, that's very true. So most of the signs, really, it depends. In the different cultures, I feel it's very different. So traditionally, it might come in through like breakup, grief. You'll see a lot of people come in at that time because they're kind of in what I call, they're in their childhood, they're in their traumas. And our trauma starts very young before we know that, right? So what happens with a breakup, we're kind of feeling our feelings. Like we can't get over things, we feel stuck, our thoughts, how we speak to ourselves, these types of things. So people tend to come in that way, or obviously through grief, but also people who are very anxious and then they don't know, like they can't go to work and do all that. So things that are like stopping their lives, right? I'll see that. But I was talking to Black women, and they were saying, so they felt like they did not have any mental health symptoms, like this group in particular.
Okay.
And I had to actually talk about what that shows up like in our bodies. Like anxiety in perhaps Black women might look like irritation or urgency all the time. And that can be anxiety too, right? But it might look different than someone in a non-Black or non-racialized body, right? The other thing is it also shows up very somatically. So we may have migraines and headaches all the time, or we can't get out of bed, and the fatigue. Those are signs too of mental health that just manifests differently. But usually people, again, who come in are they've isolated themselves. They're having a real difficult time getting over something, a situation, event, or a breakup. And then the more traditional ones, right? There's been an impact, they've seen an accident, or been through one, or ready to deal with their abuse, or childhood abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. There's lots of abuse that kind of also gets normalized, and yeah.
It's amazing work what you do.
Thank you.
It's quite remarkable. So thank you. But I have to say, just from my own culture, West Indian, we are trained or maybe socialized not to chat your business, right?
Yeah,
so no matter what you're going through, just keep it to yourself or keep it to a small group of people. So you end up internalizing quite a bit throughout your whole life, and then you wonder why this person is so snappy all the time, or they're fixated on certain substance abuse or what have you. So how do we still dismantle that stigma?
Yeah, it is a lot about, we need to normalize conversations and have more of them. We tend not to have spaces where we can actually do this. Okay, we talk amongst friends and it's great and everything, but friends are not the same because they're actually there to take care of you and give you advice. And we can't really hear what we're saying. And in therapy, we really want to feel what we're saying. There's a difference, right? We can narrate our stories. Oh yeah, I've talked about it over and over again. I've been going through this. It's like, okay, have you felt it? Like, and then we have to teach those types of things too, right, in therapy. But we need spaces to do that. We need collective community space. We need grief work. Intergenerational trauma comes up when I think about Caribbean culture, because we've been passed down wounds from our grandmother to mothers, and we have to carry it from, and so that's complex. It means on top of that, we still have to deal with our own stuff that we went through, right, on top of what's been carried down or passed through our nervous system and our upbringing as well. So we need spaces to just start to debunk that and break it up a little bit, normalize it, and then we can then heal it by grieving. We need spaces to grieve what we deserved and didn't get. We grieve more than physical loss out of this world. And one core thing about healing work is grief work.
Really?
And people don't know that. Yeah. We need to grieve. We need to grieve what we had and didn't get. We need to grieve transitions, right? Time, right? Identity, who we were prior to something, who we are now. Grief work is healing work.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for making that connection. Because a lot of people, I'll just say, just walk it off, shake it off, stiff upper lip kind of attitude to show some kind of strength. But being strong isn't always the best. There's vulnerability. There's strength in vulnerability as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And vulnerability is strength, right? That's part of intergenerational stuff. Vulnerability is the strength, but because of the generation, so where it came from was we couldn't the strength comes from if we were feeling anything, we wouldn't have been able to survive, okay? And so it's rooted in survival, okay? But real strength is in our vulnerability, and we are inviting ourselves back in our bodies and back in our vulnerabilities to re-strengthen ourselves and what happened to us so we can grieve and we can heal.
Awesome. And then we can be our whole selves.
Whole selves.
Awesome. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you. And where can people find you on social media?
Okay, people can find me on Instagram, Wounds to Wings. So wounds, like a wound, and the numeric number 2, wings. They can also find me on TEAO Canada. So T, Trauma Embodiment, E, A, Association of Ontario. Okay, don't worry about TEAO _ Canada. And also on Facebook, we're also on TO Canada as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right. Hope you come back another time to give us an update.
Thank you.
Before we go, do you have any upcoming events or projects?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're going to be popping up all over Toronto, actually, in the next month or so, bringing this type of alternative therapeutic modality out. So what we're talking about here, collective spaces and learning to grieve together, which grieving, we can grieve through movement and talk there and all the things. We're going to be rolling that out. We also just got certified as a trauma training course in Canada. So anyone who's looking to do trauma and embodiment type of training, which is trained because you work the front lines in any way, you're welcome to go through the website, tocanada.com. Yeah,
Fantastic.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
all right. Nicole Brown Faulkner. Please follow her on social media. We'll be right back.